I have two trades. I already pitched the Harrison Barnes trade where it was Derek Jones Jr. and Patrick Williams for Harrison Barnes. But also Troy Brown Jr. for Torrey Craig is a deal that I am very, very high on, assuming it's available, of course.
We've talked about Chicago before, but
yeah,
I don't think we've brought them up since the injuries to Lonzo and Caruso. Do you see that changing their trajectory at all, or do you think they're still going to be, sniffing around with Pat Williams, Troy Brown Jr., Kobe White? We've got the Blazers lottery protected pick that is very much not conveying this year now.
Not conveying. Yeah. I still think you should, for one reason. DeMar DeRozan is having a career year. You don't want to waste that. This is the year. I mean, you have no idea if he's going to be replicating this season next year. I mean, the guy is almost having a bit of an outlier season shooting the ball from mid-range. I looked it up earlier. Let me just look it up again. I want to get the numbers right after last night as well. But so DeMar from 10 to 16 feet this year was at, I believe, 54% shooting. And he'd never before been above 50. Let me just find it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So 54.4%. His career high from 10 to 16 before that was 49.3. So, this reminds me of the year where Joel Embiid just went absolutely nuts from 16 feet and beyond. Was that last year?
That was last year, yeah.
Yeah. Where he just had a complete outlier season, but that just leveled him up to perverse heights. DeMar is doing that same thing. So you're kind of looking at it going, is it reasonable to expect him to come back next year and do the same thing all over again? Probably not. And you still have Zach LaVine there. The expectation is that Ball and Caruso come back. Whether they're going to be fully healthy or not, that remains to be seen, but that is the expectation. Vooch is finally bouncing back. I mean, we're talking about 22.5 points, 13 plus rebounds over the past 10. Ayo Dosunmu is almost making his own way into the all-rookie first team because he's that good. So yeah, I would be open to it. I have two trades. I already pitched the Harrison Barnes trade where it was Derek Jones Jr. and Patrick Williams for Harrison Barnes. But also Troy Brown Jr. for Torrey Craig is a deal that I am very, very high on, assuming it's available, of course, because Torrey Craig also runs 1 year longer in terms of the contract. You avoid the Troy Brown Jr. restricted free agency, and you get an impactful defender in the playoffs. Could you imagine having a lineup of Vooch, Barnes, Craig, DeMar, Javonte, Zach LaVine, Caruso, Dosunmu, Kobe White, and Lonzo Ball?
Yeah, if it's available,
yeah.
Would you include? Do you think it would be straight up, or would you include a second round pick if you needed to for this?
In which deal? There are two.
The Troy Brown for Torrey Craig.
Yeah, I would include a second if that was if it took that, I would do it, and I would almost pay that second just to avoid the hassle of restricted free agency. And you know me, I've written about this before over at Forbes. I think restricted free agency is just such a hassle for guys who aren't necessarily good, guys who you have to figure out the numbers.
Who's giving Troy Brown Jr. a big contract this summer? No one's going
big and
him.
big. That's the thing. I don't necessarily think someone will go out and say, hey, here's $7 million a year. But again, Brian, all it takes is one NBA team.
Yeah.
And that's why I just wanted to use his contract right now to move off of him and then get Torrey Craig in, because those contracts, they match. That would be a seamless trade. And also, you give Indiana a young guy and a couple of months to check him out and see if there's something there.
What do you think of these Dennis Schroeder for Troy Brown Jr. and a second rumors that have been flying around?
Yeah, I don't like it because I don't like Schroeder. I think he's better than White in isolation. I do, because he's a better defender. Well, Kobe's taking steps though, but he is a better defender as of right now. I think Kobe's the better shooter, and I don't think there's as much need of creation in Chicago, especially not when Caruso and Lonzo Ball come back. So I'm not really into it. I understand the idea of it, which is really, again, you take a sort of an empty asset in Troy Brown Jr. and use his salary to get Schroeder in there. Okay, fine. But where are those shots going to come from? Like, is he going to be able to get his 17 points per game? Not really. And I just heard over the years so many negative things about him in the locker room sense that's tough. However, he did play for Billy Donovan, so maybe there's an in there. Maybe that would get finagled in that way. But I like the idea I posted before early more than I do the Schroeder idea. It does sound, however, like the Bulls are legitimately interested in Dennis.
Well, I mean, I can understand it, but I mean, if it's only Troy Brown Jr. in a second, whatever, that's fine.
Right.
I don't love it for the Bulls either, because if Ball and Caruso come back healthy, how much is Schroeder gonna wind up playing when you've got those guys, LaVine, DeRozan? At the same time, it is a hedge against something going wrong, like as we saw with Joe Harris and the Nets. Like he was supposed to be back in 68 weeks and he still isn't back. So it would be a hedge there. Overall, I agree with you. Their injuries, if anything, should only make them more aggressive at the trade deadline, because, especially if Brooklyn does go through with the James Harden trade right now, like I think it would take both Philly and Brooklyn some time to get accustomed to their new teammates. So I think the East would be even more wide open than it feels like it is right now. I think Chicago isn't the only one in that top six that should be aggressive. I think Cleveland is right there. They've got the Ricky Rubio, his expiring contract that it's like north of 17 million, 17.8 million. He's out for the season. You might as well dangle him for whatever you can possibly get.
And they are. And I think the package of him and Colin Sexton for teams that really like Colin Sexton and are willing to re-sign him, that could be an interesting package.
Yeah, you get his matching rights if they're willing to trade Sexton.
Yeah.
And some team was willing to take those two guys on. You get the matching rights on Sexton, and that's going to give you a pretty big advantage in restricted free agency. Cleveland also has a $8.9 million disabled player exception from the Rubio injury. So they have a lot of things to work with. The tricky thing for them is that they are only $3.5 million from the tax, and I don't know if they have the appetite to go into tax territory this year. So I don't think they could just take Schroeder straight into that thing, but it would push them over the tax line.
I would much prefer they did that.
So you don't have to have Schroeder on your...
Yes.
Yeah. They've been linked. I think Sam Amick earlier today even had them. It's like the 15th straight reporter to mention them in conjunction with Karis LeVert. Yeah. So again, depending on what, it would be Rubio plus stuff for LeVert, and whatever that stuff is, I'm not sure. I wouldn't give up multiple firsts for Karis LeVert, but if it's like a lottery protected 2022 pick, I probably would if I'm Cleveland.
LeVert just had a hell of a game. He had 42 last night, but I still don't trust his very inefficient playing style. Friend of the podcast, Caitlin Cooper, has been all over this. He ignores something as simple as triple handoffs and just goes into ISO possessions. Both Rick Carlisle and Chris Duarte are just shaking their heads at him. What the hell are you doing? He loves to go ISO, and I wonder if that is what they need in Cleveland right now. That's actually not me saying they don't need it. It could be, because sometimes Cleveland does have a tendency to lack some offensive punch. So maybe that is exactly what they want. Someone who can come in there and on occasion just, all right, we're not cooking. LeVert, go crazy.
Yeah, I think that would be the incentive to go after someone like him. Other options we brought up last episode, Eric Gordon could make some sense there, and I would guess the price is lower for him than it would be in Indiana for LeVert.
Lauri Markkanen for Eric Gordon, call it in.
Ooh.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. I don't, especially because that gives, you could still you still have the Rubio contract to get someone else in.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how, but this 3 big thing seems to be working for them. So maybe they should just not change.
Yeah, but that's not because of Lauri Markkanen, though. I will die on that hill again. I will die on lots of hills, but that one in particular, yeah.
Yeah. Either way, I expect Cleveland to be pretty active this week. Toronto is an interesting one, I think, because they have quietly climbed to 7th in the East. They're only a half game behind the Nets. They're only 4.5 games out of first place in the East. They've won 5 straight. COVID ravaged every team, but really ravaged them, and they just didn't have an entire rotation for a month. But now that everyone's back and healthy, they're playing really well, and they've got that Goran Dragic contract to dangle. So I think they're another team. I wonder if they would be willing to do Dragic and a first for someone.
I mean, hell, even if you wanted to take a step up, if you wanted to get someone with the highest salary level, you could include Khem Birch.
Or Chris Boucher, who Nick Nurse continues to just hate.
Yeah, that's a weird situation. But I will say Boucher is better than Khem Birch, in my opinion. So that's why I brought him up. But you're right. I mean, look, that's obviously that's valid. I'm sitting here going off of value, or not value, but production and talent level. But you're absolutely right. The fact that Nick Nurse seemingly has an issue with Chris Boucher, it makes him a candidate to get moved. And he's at what, $7 million. So if you combine that with the roughly 19.5, let's just say 7 for or 20 for Goran Dragic, that's 27 million roughly outgoing.
Yeah.
You can take back a hell of a contract. I don't think they'd be interested in CJ McCollum. Yeah, they wouldn't be interested in CJ McCollum because they have Gary Trent, but he would be fun there. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I do think they would think big though. I mean, it feels like they kind of need just one big to really have something fun going.
Yeah, and I saw Mark Stein link them to Jakob Poeltl.
I've seen
Miles
that too.
Turner would be another interesting name.
Yes, at least from next year. We don't know how he'll return. Christian Wood could be fun, and you don't even need all the salary to match because he's only at 13.1. I have a fun one. Raptors fans are gonna freaking hate me though.
Okay.
Porzingis.
Ooh. Could they? Hold on. I'm gonna do the math. I'll see if they can get there.
No. With Goran Dragic, Chris Boucher, and probably a pick attached because those are dead money.
Those two combined are 26.46 million. Yeah. As long as Porzingis is under 33. Oh yeah, he's at 31.65. That's easy. Yeah. Easy. Yeah.
And I realize the Raptors fans are going to go, no, we don't want that. But look, the system in Dallas, I know he's actually having a better year this year from a raw perspective because his efficiency from 3 has been pretty putrid. I think he's below 30% shooting from outside. But the Dallas tenure, all in all, has been weird. The fit in Dallas hasn't exactly been great. When he was traded there, we all kind of envisioned, oh my God, Luka and KB, that's going to be the next great duo.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
If he can come into Toronto where everyone hustles, everyone fights, everyone claws and scraps and defends, and they pass the ball and they do everything to get the best quality shot, wouldn't KP just slide right into that? Just being an opportunistic rim runner, opportunistic pick and popper, a guy who can play drop coverage and get 2.5 blocks per game. You don't even need him to, he's not a great rebounder, but you need him to be that because you have so many guys there who rebound outside of their area and just hustles to the ball regardless.
Yeah.
This is a team that could shield his weaknesses very well.
Well, I mean, the wild thing about Toronto is that they really don't need to make a move. The starting five of Van Vliet, Gary Trent, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, and Pascal Siakam is really strong as is. So, I get the inclination to want a quote-unquote, true big instead of having to play Siakam there. But, at the same time, I don't know that they need to necessarily. Right. I think just trading Dragic and getting something of long-term value, or just getting, even if, like an Eric Gordon is on what might be considered a neutral asset contract or even a slightly negative asset contract, but like, bringing him in and getting him on for, he's at least guaranteed one more year and he's non-guaranteed in 23-24, but that, gives Houston cap savings, which is all that Tillman Fertitta cares about. I don't know. I think that there is value in taking on even like a bench guy, because I think that's probably where they need to improve more than the starting five. It's just like we need someone dependable to come out the bench, because Nick Nurse is playing like 7-man rotations, like in a triple overtime game. He damn near killed half of his roster.
Yeah, that's fair, because here's the thing. Porzingis wouldn't want to come off the bench, and the more that I look at this lineup, you can't justify taking one of Barnes, Siakam, or Anunoby off the bench either.
Right.
But I wonder if that's going to come to a head at one point, because I love Siakam, and he's playing center this year, but is it something you can trust moving forward? And that's not me crapping on it. It's working so far, so it might, but it's small. Like, they're still scrapping, they're still fighting, they're still clawing, they're doing all those things. But eventually, I'm wondering if that's going to be too big of a hurdle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, I wonder... I don't know what they would have to incentivize Orlando, but like getting a guy like Mo Bamba.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and you get his matching rights.
Right. But Dragic does nothing for, unless you're taking on. No, like they have. I mean, I don't think they're looking to like salary dump Markelle Fultz.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
but I mean, that'd be like the type of guy that I would go swinging on. I like that Pirtle idea, honestly, but it's the same thing. Like, I don't know what you're. And so, like, the Spurs, I think, are pretty high on Pirtle. I don't know how you are incentivizing them. Like, is Dragic and the pick enough? Because Pirtle's he's earning 8.8 this year, 9.4 next year. It's not like
he's
a huge
super
contract.
Cheap.
Yeah,
no, he's super cheap. I think for Toronto, you can definitely argue that it's more appropriate to get him off the bench at least, and because he would still play a ton of minutes. But just in terms of what you relinquish, I don't know what that is. I mean, Precious Achiuwa maybe, but is that enough? I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, I would think it would be at least him and a pick would get you in the door.
And that was actually my kind of thinking also in the Dallas trade, because my thinking was, obviously there's the Slovenian connection with Goran Dragic and Luka, so they'd finally get an opportunity to play, but you wouldn't be trading for Dragic. What you would be trading for was like a draft pick and a young player. That would be Achiuwa and a pick, for example. And we need to talk about Dallas at some point, because I just don't buy that they need to keep doing this thing where they go out and look for veterans. Like, Luka's young enough that you could play the draft game. Start doing it now. Like, if you really want to get that secondary guy in, like, you're wasting your time. You're not going to find it through trading KP.
Well, let's go into Dallas, and let's move to the West, because I think there are a number of potential buyers there. Dallas was on my list, especially in the wake of the Tim Hardaway Jr. He has a foot fracture, out indefinitely. Fifth metatarsal typically means you're going to be out for. Like, I don't think they've said he's out for the season. Right. Mentally, I am assuming he is out for the season.
All right. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's get into this big thing.
Can they find someone to either replace him or shuffle the pieces around and get off of the KP contract? Because Luka, started the season slow, but he is fully back in MVP form now.
Yeah.
Reggie Bullock's been playing better lately. So like they have, and Jalen Brunson and DFS, I think, are the big question marks there, because both guys are going to be free agents this summer. Yes. And it's unclear whether the Mavs are going to be able to retain both of them. Mm-hmm. So, do they look to use those guys now for a possible long-term upgrade? Are they willing to pay up for either or both of those guys this summer and they're looking to shuffle pieces around elsewhere? Like, what do you think they do?
I mean, one thing is what they will do and what they should do. And I don't think those two connect.
Okay, fair.
Because I think they are in it to win it. And I think one of the things they've done was they got Luka. They found out, okay, he's an immediate superstar, so we can attach all these win now players to him. And that will give us a fighting chance every single year. Cool. But at the same time, under his 4 years, they haven't solved the biggest puzzle yet, which is giving him a proper running mate. They tried with KP. It was pretty obvious somewhat early on that it wasn't going to work out. I mean, he's been involved in trade rumors for the past 2 years, and nothing has really materialized. Now Luka, this offseason, is going to kick in his extension, which means that's cap space that you otherwise would have made available that's now no longer available because he's going to take up, how much is it, 30% of the cap?
Right now it's estimated, I don't know if Spotrac updated these. I think they have it listed as, they have it listed as 35.7. I think it's actually, with the new $121 million cap projection, I think it's 36.3.
Okay.
Either way, north of $35 million.
Right, exactly. It's a lot of money. And I don't want to call it failure for them to spend 4 years not being able to locate a secondary guy for Luka. I also wouldn't call it a success, but
they thought it was KP. Like that was their move, and it just
was,
didn't work
and it
out.
failed.
Yeah,
but they could have pivoted off of that. They didn't. And it's the King situation over again, where if you keep guys around who are constantly in the rumor mill all the time, they are going to lose value the longer you keep hanging on to them. Like, I mean, Buddy Hield is a perfect example of this. It's that thing again. Move them when you know it's not the right fit, and you knew this 2 years ago.
Did they though? 2 years ago was the 1 year where they played well together, and then last year I think was the first time.
Did they play so well together? It was more Luka than it was anything else, and he was complaining. KP was complaining.
Yeah,
it was pretty obvious.
I think last year is where the cracks really started to form, but by that time. But by that time, did KP have positive trade value on that contract last year?
He did not, and that's the issue that I'm presenting. Because I think just by KP being upset and wanting more shots, this last year wasn't the first time he'd voiced it. Remember, it wasn't. He had alluded to it in the past. This wasn't a new thing. It was just on a bigger scale and a bigger stage. But my point here is, they are in a situation now where they have a Luka who is 22. He's going to be 23 next month, so he's still superbly young. You had time to go through the draft. Like the old Michael Jordan route. You had a Michael Jordan, now you need to find a Scottie Pippen. You find him through the draft, right? They kept trying to find these guys, or not kept trying, they tried with KP, and then they tried to plug in that roster with win now players, which, okay, they've had some nice playoff games. Absolutely. Luka is a brilliant playoff performer. That's all well and good. Is this team right now one you would trust to maintain playoff success?
No.
All right. That means changes are needed, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I think it's been tough for them because the KP thing, they gave up so much to get him in terms of future draft capital.
Yeah.
And because Luka made them so good so quickly, they didn't have that chance. They had the pick that they traded up to get Luka, and then as soon as they got him, they got good right away. So it's they've had they had the Josh Green pick, and then
he's still got some potential. I don't think he's the Scotty to Luka's Michael, but I think he's got some staying power.
Right, but he was the number 18 pick.
Yeah.
They didn't have a first rounder in 2019. They didn't have a first rounder last year. So they haven't been able to play the draft game since they got Luka. They got Jalen Brunson in that same draft at 33, and they traded Shake Milton to Philly in that draft at 54. But otherwise, they haven't had draft picks, but I'm saying they could have gone that route. They could have traded guys to get those picks, and they never did. Yeah. I hear you.
They wanted to win. And I don't, by the way, I don't blame Dallas for wanting to win. When you have a superstar, and you field a competitive roster, I totally get buying into that. That is admirable. So that's not my gripe. My gripe here is that if you lean all the way into it with win now guys who are, late 20s, early 30s, that doesn't align with your key guy.
Right.
So what should they do? We were talking about them being a buyer. What can they do? Yeah,
I mean, that's where it gets tough if you're not willing to give up. You have to give up one of Brunson or Finney-Smith, I think. Like, I don't think Kristaps has positive trade value. You can try to break him up into a couple of smaller contracts, maybe. But other than that, I was about to say, would the Clippers do... I don't even think they could. Covington and Marcus Morris, but I don't think you can combine... Well, the Mavericks do have a big trade exception, though, I think, right? I think they have...
From which trade?
I think it's 10.9 million from... close to 10.9 from the Josh Richardson trade. So they can take someone in. They are 15 million under the tax, so that's not a concern.
Right.
I had them circled as a possible, if the Sixers were trying to go, under the tax line, that you could send Danny Green there and take back any one of their
Let's give Luka 35-year-old. Yep.
Well, yeah, I know, but it's better than standing pat.
You know what they should have stood pat when they had Seth Curry.
Yeah. Did you see the video, by the way?
I did. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. I love that Mark Cuban completely owned that. Remember how pissed? No, you weren't pissed. I was pissed because you actually got Seth Curry. But
right, I was thrilled.
You were thrilled, but that was the dumbest trade.
Yeah. It seems like Mark Cuban tends to agree.
Yeah. But I'm just looking at this. You have Dwight Powell. Can you move off of his contract?
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know how many of these guys have positive trade value.
Yeah.
Other than Jalen Brunson and Finney-Smith, both of whom are about to be unrestricted free agents.
Right. Finney-Smith wants $15 million a year on his next team.
Yikes. Good luck with that in this market.
I think that's the thing. I think Dallas might give it to him.
Well, no one else has cap space. No one's going to have... all these guys who are dreaming of these big contracts need to look around and be like, there are 3 teams with cap space. Everyone else will be limited to the non-taxpayer mid-level
I get that, but there's a reason why I think Dallas is going to do that. Because he's been playing on a very undervalued contract for years.
I see. Yeah.
And if they don't do this, if they play hardball after he's been playing under below market deal, that is going to piss off so many agents, and that's going to send a very bad signal. So I think they are going to pay it.
It's like a make-right deal with him.
Yeah, I think so, because we can sit here all day long and talk about squeezing someone, and I get it, but reality is just different. You have all these agents that actually put a lot of stock into these things, and you don't want to piss off agents.
No, you do not. All right, let's rapid fire through a couple other Western Conference potential buyers here. I think Phoenix is an obvious one. Best record in the league. You've got the Dario Saric contract at $8.5 million. Jalen Smith 4.5. They did not pick up his team option for next year, so they are limited in how much they could.
That still bothers me. Still bothers me. Yeah.
It probably bothers them too now that he's started to break out.
Yeah. Well, then have more patience.
Yeah. Well, so that's, $13 million in salary. That should at least be able to get them in the neighborhood of, even if it's just an expiring. I think they will be dangling both of those guys for extra help, even if they have to attach a draft pick to them.
What about Cameron Payne? Would he be interesting for anyone?
He's at $6.5 million.
Yeah.
So that can get you even higher in terms of salary. I don't know.
I wondered if he's played well enough.
Yeah, I don't know if he's got I think you probably just keep him, and I don't know if he has enough trade value to swing a
Right. And you know what? He's also a decent backup point guard who they will probably need him in the playoff. I don't trust Elfrid Payton. I would trust Payne a little bit more. So maybe that he's just not an option. But yeah, you're right. Jalen Smith. But see, this is the issue again. Like if you would have more value to send out if Jalen Smith was on a picked up deal.
Right. Oh yeah, it was a big. I mean that draft unfortunately was just a huge missed opportunity for the Suns because 2 picks later, there's right after Jalen Smith, it was Devin Vassell, Tyrese Halliburton, Kyrie Lewis Jr., Aaron Nesmith, Cole Anthony.
Well, Aaron Nesmith, I'm okay with not picking.
Yeah, but Kyrie Lewis you can even be okay with, but any of Vassell, Halliburton, or Cole Anthony would help the Suns a lot more right now. Than it felt like Jalen Smith was a hedge against DeAndre Ayton, and then he took it personally and just had a monster year.
Yeah. It's a good shout. There are definitely some upgrade maneuverability here in terms of Sarge and Jalen Smith. Yes.
Memphis is another obvious potential buyer. You've got Kyle Anderson is a $9.9 million expiring contract. Tyus Jones 8.4, Jarrett Culver 6.4. So plenty of optionality there. Here's the one I want to throw at you though.
Okay.
Dylan Brooks. Yeah. 12.2 this year, 11.4 next year. He's been hurt for the last couple weeks, hasn't played, and they've been fine without him. I mean, Desmond Bane is just. If you drew up a perfect partner for Ja Morant, it's Desmond Bane.
I would agree.
I just can't help but wonder if Dylan Brooks might have gotten Wally pipped here. Like he lost his spot in the starting lineup potentially, or
let's slow our roll here because Memphis still needs offense.
Sure.
Even though they've played well of late. In the playoffs, they are going to need guys who can create and make shots. Otherwise, they would overburden Ja Morant. And I do think while Brooks has been out, Morant has been forced to average 30 plus.
Yeah.
I don't think that's sustainable. So if you're trading Dylan Brooks, which I'm not opposed to, you need to get someone back who can at least put up shots. You can't go into a defensive-minded player.
Here was the idea that came to mind for me, and I can't tell if I like it for both teams or I hate it for both teams.
All right.
Dylan Brooks to Miami for Duncan Robinson.
Love it.
For both teams?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, yeah, for one reason. So I know Duncan has been better of late. I'm not going to take his struggles into account. Shooters have rough years all the time, and it doesn't mean that they are irrecoverably broken.
Right.
But he's not a creator. He's someone who runs around and spots ups. He's a catch and shoot guy. I think with Tyler Hero improving as just a dynamic all around scorer, and you would get Dylan Brooks in there who can also both create off the dribble. He can also shoot a bit. You can replace that. You will lose some gravity. I'm not saying you wouldn't. But I do like that you get an additional component in Miami of creation that you didn't have before. Because
he's
Brooks
much better defensively too. So
this is also true. Yeah.
My thinking from Miami's side is Duncan Robinson in the closing five. I mean, for certain matchups, yes, but you could also have a closing five of Lowry, Hero, Butler, PJ Tucker, and Bam Adebayo. So. Are you necessarily losing that much if you are giving up? Yes, you are, because Duncan Robinson, as you said, the gravity alone, you would be sacrificing something offensively, but a lineup, even remove Hero from it. If you do Lowry, Brooks, Butler, Tucker, Adebayo, there isn't a single defensive weak link in there. That is just
right.
It might lean too heavily to defense, and maybe you would have to have Hero in there instead of one of those guys, Brooks or Tucker. But
and you also have Max Strus, and you have Gabe Winston. I mean, you have guys who can come in and replace a significant chunk of what Duncan Robinson otherwise gave you.
Right.
So it's not like I'm out on Duncan Robinson as a player, but I do think this would give Miami a more complete lineup in a way. Your point about defense is absolutely right, and I love it for Memphis as well because they have the creators. They also have a lot of defenders. I don't think they're short in that department. So having a zone breaker who can come out and just shoot the ever-living hell of that basketball next to Morant, next to Jaren Jackson Jr., next to all those guys, that would create so much space, especially for Ja to get into the paint.
Yeah,
exactly. I like that one. It's a bit of a high gamble, or not a high gamble. It's a bit of a gamble, I would say, for Memphis because you would need Duncan Robinson like the normal version.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
if you get that,
it's a trade that I don't think either side would actually do.
Yeah,
but it's like one that I think could make both teams better.
I think it's one of those deals that both fan bases are absolutely going to hate, which means it's a good one.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Memphis is definitely a team to just keep an eye on. I think it's safe to say they should be sniffing around for some potential upgrades. Right. Minnesota has had a better than expected season.
Agreed.
You've got the Patrick Beverley. I believe he is expiring this year. You've got Taurean Prince, who's expiring this year. Those are probably the two big ones. Like, I don't think you're trading Jared Vanderbilt. He's been too good.
You don't, and hell, you might not even trade Patrick Beverley for one reason, man. He's been a teacher.
Yeah, the culture.
Yeah.
They have Malik Beasley, who has been not playing very well, and he's signed for one more year, and then has a $16.5 million club option. So, like, they have.
Does he still have legal issues hanging over his head?
I think those are resolved at this point.
Okay.
But I mean, not resolved is the fact that he's shooting 37.5% overall this season.
Yeah, that's not helping the situation any.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're definitely not trading Jaden McDaniels because why would you?
No. Yeah.
And Jalen Nowell has played better, and Nas Reed has been good. I mean, I like this team. Josh Okogie, you may wish to give up because he just hasn't turned into like that force that you want him to.
Yeah, and he's a restricted free agent after this year.
Yeah, so that's not a lot of value there either. Okay, so if you package all right, so let's say you do package Beverly anyway, and like you package him with Prince. That's what, 27.5 roughly?
Yeah.
What do you
like? They can get. They have enough salary to go swinging on someone, but I just don't know if they need to. And Beverly, I agree. Like, culture-wise, you might just not want to give him up,
right?
Because he's been a positive influence on that front. So, like,
they really need a wing, though.
Yeah, but I mean, how many wings are available right now?
That's the thing. Not a lot. Yeah, and especially like if you don't have the draft
Grant.
classes.
But I mean, he's not really a wing, and
no, he's more of a 4.
And I also wouldn't want to go. I mean, like, given his demands for role and contract, I don't think I'd want to commit to either of those if I'm Minnesota.
How is Minnesota's draft pick situation? Do we have any clarity about that, or do they have any outgoing that hasn't conveyed?
Let me check. No,
is one of them still
a couple seconds, but nothing meaningful.
Yeah.
They have
so
all their
everything
firsts.
has converted in Golden State.
Yeah, that was the Kuminga pick.
Yeah. Okay. And they're better this year. They might make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're the 7th seed.
Yeah. But I mean, well, we still have some season left, Brian. But yeah.
Yeah, I know. And the play-in tournament, like, they could.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's a chance it's like Minnesota versus the Lakers for the 8th seed as the final play-in game.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because obviously you would want to, get one more guy in there, preferably a wing. So if you had a high draft pick, maybe there was someone in this year's draft class that would have made sense. But if you're working under the assumption that they're not going to have a high pick, it's going to be like in the mid first, and there are not necessarily a lot of wings available at that area.
Mm-hmm.
All right, maybe you do need to trade. And if that means trading future draft picks and those salaries of both Beverly and Prince, maybe you just swing for something. But I don't know what that something is, though.
Right. Yeah, if something's available, sure. But like, none of the names who have been bubbling up in trade rumors really do anything for me if I'm Minnesota.
Right. Sacramento doesn't have a wing because that's a need of their own.
Right.
San Antonio is also kind of full at guard, and they don't really have anyone. OKC doesn't have wings. Houston just because I have to look at non-competing teams because competing teams are not going to give up wings.
Right. And that going back to the Clippers, like it makes sense that they've gone all in on that position because if they ever do need to trade one of them, what does every single team in the league need?
Yeah. Wings. Karis LeVert? TJ Warren, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, TJ Warren's expiring, and do we know if he's going to play at any point this year?
Fine. Then just Karis LeVert. Is that is, I mean, yeah, I have my issues with LeVert, but at least there he'd fill a role.
You're thinking like Prince for LeVert and Prince and a first for LeVert?
Yeah, let's see. LeVert is at what, 17 and a half?
And
Prince is 13. So
that should work because he's in that range. Well, assuming, there's no way either of these teams are. Oh, the other consideration for Minnesota, though, they're only $870,000 from the tax line, so they would not want to take.
They would not. Okay, nope, no. They would have to they could include Jake Lyman.
Is that? Yeah, they would. I hope they don't have any incentives that guys could hit, but that would squeeze them under by about $200,000 if I'm doing that math right.
All right. I mean, the framework could be worked out. But I do think that would be an interesting place. Although that's a lot of offense, not a lot of defense still.
Yeah. Like I think Minnesota's gonna sniff around. I don't know if they do anything big.
Yeah.
New Orleans is the only other team that really comes to mind. Is like we've heard they're in buyer mode. They've got the Josh Hart contract that's not guaranteed after this year. Sato's $10 million expiring. They've got some young guys. Sounds like they're willing to move on from Jackson Hayes, who played well against the Nuggets the other night. I think CJ, it sounds like, is a possibility there. Wouldn't surprise me. Who else do they get linked to? De'Aaron Fox, Eric Gordon. So I think they're very clearly looking to upgrade the roster however they can. Given their history, would not surprise me if they even overpay to do so. But such is life when you have Zion Williamson heading into an extension year.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have a Zion Williamson then.
And that is a topic for after the trade deadline because we'll I'm sure we'll revisit that as soon as Ben Simmons' arbitration hearing wraps up.
Right. Oh God. Oh, and promise when we have that discussion, I love him, but let's not have Schmidt or Mason on because that's gonna be an interesting.
Oh boy. Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant after during the Ben Simmons arbitration hearing.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna have an ice pick jammed into my head.
Oh God, dude, the fact that Ben Simmons can end up destroying this league for a couple of years.
I know. It's pretty good. There's going to be a Ben Simmons rule in the next CBA. I'm excited.